There we go, start recording. Okay, if you write the test without the cheat sheet, that will count for enriched marks. Yes. How many of you have noticed that actually making a cheat sheet helps you even if you don't use it? Okay, so honestly, if you learn the biology in this unit, that's fantastic. But if you learn a useful study technique, that's even more helpful, because I don't know if you want to go on and be a biologist, but I know that you have to make it through another, 3 years of high school after this, right? And maybe post-secondary, should you choose to do that. And having some study skills and some techniques that you can use for those future studies will be helpful. So making study sheets, even if you never end up using them, like as a cheat sheet, super good way of making that knowledge your own, okay? All right, so we are on page 82. So there are 46 chromosomes, 23 pairs, and this is all of your genetic material. And there is a word for all of your genetic material, and that word is genome. So all of your genetic code is called a genome. So we can use that word down in this sentence. Your genome which is the entire collection of genes that help make up who you are, is written across 23 pairs. You need to know that there's 23 pairs. This is humans only. All different animals have all different numbers of chromosomes, but for humans, it's 23. And that's 46 chromosomes. "23 pairs, 46 chromosomes." They don't look much like the X-type shape, and that's because they're sort of, in order to make these sort of X-rays of them, they have to smush them, and sometimes they don't smush particularly well. But here is an image in which the X shapes are more clear, okay? So you can see that we have those X shapes. Okay, on the next page, page 83. With very few exceptions, maybe I need an answer key for this so I can actually use the real words. With very few exceptions, each cell in your body contains its own full copy or set of your chromosomes, your entire genetic code. What's the word we use for our entire genetic code? We just learned it. The genome. Your genome. Every single cell contains your entire genome. Okay? The only cells that don't contain your entire genome are the eggs and the sperm. They only contain half. Because if they contained the full set of chromosomes, we would have a big problem. Because you would get a full set of chromosomes from mom and a full set of chromosomes from dad, and all of a sudden, instead of 46 chromosomes, you would have 92. And then your child would have whatever 92 plus 92 is, 184. And then you would have, and it would just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So when the body makes what we call gametes, when it makes the egg and the sperm, it does a special type of cell division that gets rid of half of the chromosome. It splits them up into halves. And we will talk about that a little bit more later, okay? So here's our eyeball, here's our liver. How is it possible that they all contain the same genome, but an eyeball acts as an eyeball and a liver acts as a liver? Well, it turns out that the eyeballs only use eyeball cell genes, okay? The rest are turned off. Liver cells, even though they've got the eyeball cell genes in them, they only use the liver cell genes. The rest are turned off, and so on, so forth for each different type of tissue and type of cell. So here's our chromosomes. And you can see we have highlighted one half of them. And we can say that half of them came from your who? Mom. And I'm going to show you a little symbol that we often use in genetics to represent the mom. Okay, and it looks like this. Okay. That is do you know like your, you know the astrological symbols like from the Greek? Okay. This is Venus's hand mirror. These are very stereotypical. So for the female, they have Venus's hand mirror. And then, guess what? We have another stereotype for dad. For dad, whoops. That's how we show the male, and that is Mars's shield and spear. So one thing you might notice about these is that other than the fact that the highlighted ones look a bit bigger because of the highlighting, they are actually the same size and shape as each other. Yeah, so if I was just to bop back here, do you see how chromosome 4 and chromosome 4, the one from mom and one from dad, are the same size and the same shape? Yeah? And 13, they have the same size, same shape, right? However, can you find the one that doesn't have the same size and the same shape? 23. Chromosome number 23. Let's go back to this one here. Chromosome number 23. These are the sex chromosomes. Okay? And do you guys know the designations? If you have an X chromosome, That's like the female chromosome. Except that it's, oh my God, what are you guys doing? Okay, stop doing that. It's noisy and it's distracting. Except that not only women have the X chromosomes. Men have an X and a Y chromosome. Women have an X and an X chromosome. Now, is that the end of the chromosome story? Absolutely not. There are people with X, like a single X. There's people with XXX. There's people with XYY. There's all kinds of other variants. And depending on what sort of hormones the person is exposed to, some genes will be turned on and off, which is why you have people who are actually called intersex. Have you ever heard of that? People who are intersex have both female body parts and male body parts, but they might not even know it. Sometimes people don't even find out until they have like an operation that's like, wow, what's that in there? There's an ovary in there. What the heck? Right? So you might not even know. So it's not as clear cut as, male and female. There's all kinds of other things that cause the development of different sex organs. Some of them are internal, some of them are external. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on this year. You will get into it a little bit more in grade 10, okay? If you were to examine, we are now on page 84. If you were to examine the two individual chromosomes of a pair, you'd find that for the most part, both contain the exact same genes in the exact same location. If you zoom into the actual genetic code, even though they have the same gene, you would find slight sequence variations, that is, differences in the letters. What causes these little differences in the letters? Mutations, yes. These are the results of mutations. Most of these mutations happened long ago, and they've been passed down from parent to child for many generations. So if we have a matching pair of chromosomes, whoops, sorry. I'll give you guys a minute to finish there. So if you have a matching pair of chromosomes, say it's chromosome number 1, or it's chromosome number 4, you have one from mom and you have one from dad, okay? And chromosome number 4, for example, would have a gene from mom. It would have the same gene. Let's say this gene right here, that gene might be eye color, yeah? This gene here might be tongue rolling. Now, to be honest with you, it's been debunked. Tongue rolling is not a genetic trait, but I like to pretend that it is because it is something that everybody can try. Right now, you can see if you can roll your tongue. into a circle. Now, apparently, when I was in school, we were always taught that that was a genetic trait, and that either you could, because you had a particular gene, or you couldn't, because you had a particular gene. But apparently that has been debunked. It is not actually a genetic trait. So I should really get rid of the tongue rolling, and instead we'll put on something like earlobe shape. So you might have an earlobe. If this is the side of your head, your earlobe might kind of do a dangly downy thing like that. Or your earlobe might go straight in like that. And that is a genetic trait. So if it goes in and it doesn't have a dangly bit, you have a dangly earlobe or a non-dangly earlobe. So if you can't tell, you can ask your partner what kind of earlobe you have. Check out your earlobe and your partner's earlobe. See what you've got. Yeah. So somewhere along the way, if you have a dangly earlobe or if you have an attached earlobe, your ancestors way back had a mutation that either caused one of those or the other. And that was neither a harmful mutation nor really a beneficial mutation. There's no real advantage to having either kind of earlobe. Yeah? So that would be like a neutral mutation where it's like, does it matter? Not so much. There are other mutations which are completely unique to you. These mutations either occurred in the sperm or in the egg, which fuse together to make you. Or it's possible that these mutations occurred early in your development. How many chromosomes do you think there are in a sperm? Have a little chat with your neighbor about that. How many chromosomes do you think there are in a sperm? Yeah. How many? How many chromosomes? Yes, Brian, you're right. It is 23. There are 23 chromosomes in a sperm. How many chromosomes are there in an egg? 23 chromosomes. And how many are there when they fuse? Whoa, what happened? You end up with 46 chromosomes. Okay, so 23 makes 23 pairs, which is 46 chromosomes. All right, summary. DNA is a spiraling chain-like molecule made of nucleotides A, C, T, and G. I think we really know that by now. A gene. It is a stretch of DNA that codes for something, and that something is a protein. A mutation is a change in the nucleotide sequence. So it's a change in the A, C, T, G letters. What do we call a characteristic caused by specific proteins? A characteristic is called a trait. So you should know the term mutation. We already know the term gene. You should know the term trait. I believe we already know that one, but that's okay. We'll repeat it again. You should know 23 pairs, 46 chromosomes. You should know the symbol for mom. You should know the symbol for dad. For most of a cell's life, yes, chromosomes exist in a noodle-like structure called chromatin. We knew that already. And this is a little bit new. This is a little bit new. Before a cell reproduces, in other words, before it splits in two, before a cell splits in two, the chromosomes are copied. The DNA is copied. How many unreplicated chromosomes are there in a cell? Everyone. How many unreplicated chromosomes in a cell? No, unreplicated. 3? In a human cell. 46. Okay, now this little bit's tricky. We make copies of those chromosomes. So if this is a chromosome that is unreplicated, okay, we're going to pretend that it's in its condensed form. When it replicates, it has an identical copy right next to it. And they are stuck together, making that X-like structure. Can you guys make an unreplicated chromosome? Show me an unreplicated chromosome. Everyone show me an unreplicated chromosome. Now show me a replicated chromosome. So you put your wrists together and you point your fingers out to the side. That's a replicated chromosome. Unreplicated chromosome. Replicated chromosome. What does it mean to replicate? Replicate means copy. Okay? These two are identical. So here's the trick. We still have 46 chromosomes. They are just replicated chromosomes. Even though we started with 46 noodles and we finished with 92 noodles, the 92 noodles are stuck together and we call that a single chromosome. Okay? Okay. So basically what you would have is you would have a strand of DNA. Okay? And then you would have another strand of DNA, which is a perfect copy. And they're stuck together. So you have the DNA, that's a chromosome. You have the copied DNA, where it has two copies, that is also just called a chromosome. So it doesn't matter whether you have an unreplicated strand of DNA or a replicated strand of DNA, they are both just called one chromosome. What do those chromosomes need to do before the cell splits in two? Before they line up, before they go to the ends, if they are long and thin and noodly, they need to condense. Okay? So they condense. That way, you don't have to organize a bowl of noodles, you organize balls of yarn. So number one, they replicate. Actually, we should do this. Number one, they replicate. Number two, they condense. What do they do next? So they replicate, they condense, they line up, then they pull apart, and then you get cell division. Okay, so this structure, so we have our unreplicated DNA, then we have our replicated DNA, and then we have our condensed chromosomes. They line up. There's these string-like structures that pull everything to either side of the cell, and then the cell pinches in half. And this whole process, and we're not going to learn this officially, this whole process is called mitosis. Let me write that so that looks like a T. So one thing I might expect you to be able to do on a quiz is if these pictures are randomized, I might expect you to be able to say this one comes first, this one comes second, this one comes third. Okay? So on the quiz, be able to order these. Yeah. Is that good? Little more? Do you want it bigger?
Can English still watch?
Yes. Is that good? Okay. I'm just going to bring it down here again. So if anybody missed anything down here. And then you guys can start working on the exercises. Did we miss anything? You guys good? Okay. So you guys could do pages, what, 87, 88? And if you want to go further, you can definitely go further, okay? And I think we'll do the strawberry extraction on Wednesday. That will have covered all the DNA stuff, and we'll do that on Wednesday.